Hi guys, today I'm introducing to you manufacturing overheads or simply overheads. What are overheads? Overheads, some define them as ongoing operating expenses of a business. So they can either be overheads can either be variable or fixed. Overheads can either be manufacturing or non-manufacturing. And overheads can take various forms. So it depends on from company to company. Number one, here I give you examples of overheads. They can take the form of rent, fuel, telephone, electricity bills, labor liabilities, accounting fees, advertising expenses, insurance, your interest, your legal fees, repairs and maintenance costs. So the list is endless. As I said, they can be manufacturing or non-manufacturing. That's how we classify our overheads. It can either be fixed or variable. So manufacturing overheads will be things like material handlers, the cost paid to them, people who set up machine equipment, people who inspect products as they are being produced. So the list is endless. So it's not going to be limited to the 5 that I have showed here. This is other examples of people who perform or record keeping for manufacturing process, factory management team, supplies for operating the manufacturing overheads, depreciation on machine equipment and facilities. Non-manufacturing overheads will take the form of all the expenses which are not directly linked to production. Remember, primary costs are the only costs which are linked to production. So all costs which are not linked to production, we classify them as non-manufacturing overheads. Then they are post-production. So how do we absorb overheads? Number one, you must develop a cost pool. Cost pool simply means collection of all your overheads in different forms. Then they fall under a cost pool. Once you have a cost pool, then you must identify the cost driver. We've got 6 cost drivers. The first cost driver is direct material cost, followed by direct labor cost, followed by primary cost, followed by direct labor hours, followed by machine hours. Those are the cost drivers. The last one is your number of units produced or your production volume, 6 in total. Then once you have your cost driver, then you can be able to calculate your predetermined overhead rate. To calculate your predetermined overhead rate, there is a formula. The formula says budgeted manufacturing overheads divided by the cost driver. The cost driver will be any one from here. So we will tell you which one to use. For example, if you are using production volume, your formula will be budgeted manufacturing overhead divided by budgeted production volume. If we are using labor hours, it's going to be budgeted manufacturing overhead divided by labor hours. If we are using machine hours, it's going to be budgeted manufacturing overheads divided by machine hours. Those will be the rates. But if you are dividing cost by cost, it gives us a rate, not a cost per unit. Like budgeted manufacturing overheads multiplied by 100 divided by budgeted material cost will give you the absorption rate in percentage, not in rand value. Then the last step or the fourth step will be applied overheads, where you have to tell us by how much are we absorbing our cost into production. Then you do your over or under adjustment, or over or under applied, and the last adjustment is adjustment to cost of sales and manufacturing overheads. Then this is another way to do it. Budgeting manufacturing overheads, you must identify them first. You apply your overheads to production, then you determine as to whether you are over or under applied. To do that, you will need to identify a cost driver. Then these are the bases: production volume, direct labor cost, direct material cost, prime cost, which is the sum of your material and labor, machine hours, and direct labor hours. And the formula to calculate POR is there. It's either budgeted manufacturing overheads divided by budgeted cost driver or budgeted base. These are the base. Base number 1 divided by number of units estimated to be produced. Number 2, labor cost. Number 3, material. Number 4, primary cost, which is the sum of material and labor. Number 5, machine hours. Number 6, labor hours. So any of this can be used to calculate the cost, the POR. Then to calculate your applied, you need predetermined overhead rate. You multiply by actual cost driver or actual base. The base will be given. You will be given both budgeted and actuals. So you need budgeted to calculate POR, but you need POR and budgeted cost driver to calculate applied. Then over or under applied. To calculate the over or under applied, we must compare the actual and the applied. Under absorbed overheads means there are more actual overheads costs were incurred than applied. Over absorbed, there is a definition, means that more applied overheads were incurred more than the actuals. Then allocation of manufacturing overheads, we use what we call a step method. This is an example of a step method. Number 1, identify your primary allocation. Simply means divide your cost between production and service departments. Step number 2, divide your costs from service department into production department. Then the third step is to calculate your absorption rate, applied over or under, and make the last adjustment.